Thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Wow, we've been covering a lot in this look at technology, thanks to Ray Appy and Anise and Associates. And one term kept coming up, and I asked Ray before we went on air today. I said, you keep talking about virtualization, and we live in a virtual world, and it's scary out there and whatever. But in terms of the application and virtualization technology, it really is it's the new frontier, right?
It is.
In a lot of ways, right? Let's start with
Okay.
maybe just give us a briefer on virtualization technology.
Okay, so at the highest level, virtualization technology is the concept of running multiple instances of operating systems on one piece of hardware or one computer, as opposed to running one instance on one computer and having many computers or many pieces of hardware. So it's an efficiency thing in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and we're going to dig into some of that. I think we're a classic example here where everybody's computer is either a desktop with a brain or a laptop or whatever. Every single computer contains all of the hardware necessary for the operating system, and you're saying that there's a new way to do this, right?
That's
and actually a much more efficient way to do this.
That's correct.
Could you explain it?
Sure. So first of all, I would compare and contrast a little bit of the difference between using this technology in a data center versus using it out at the desktop. And I think maybe we'll spend more time on the desktop because in our conversations, the concept of using virtualization in the data centers come up a few times. So just to recap that real quickly, in a data center, historically, you needed a separate server for every application that you run, or almost every application that you run. So in a large organization, there are literally hundreds of servers. Each one was a piece of hardware running an operating system, running an application, or maybe a couple things on it. So you can imagine in a large hospital with, for example, 400 or 500 servers, how hard that is to manage and how expensive of a model that is and how much power that consumes. So in the data center, we're able to take, for example, 10, maybe even 20 servers and roll them all up onto one piece of hardware now. So a new piece of server hardware with enough computing processing and memory to run multiple virtual server instances on it is a virtualized environment. But out at the desktop, we can apply this technology as well to provide efficiencies for organizations that are trying to manage so many computers, as you just described for yourself. Think of an organization that's got maybe 1,000 users or maybe 20,000 users or maybe over 100,000 desktop users.
Wow.
In the last 20 years or so, every knowledge worker or professional employee who had a desk with a phone and a computer had a computer at the desk, and that computer was fully functional. As you said, it was its own standalone hardware, monitor, keyboard, mouse, and an operating system to run applications on, and all the applications loaded locally on that computer with random access memory and enough computer processing to run whatever it needed to run, and also a disk to provide some local storage.
Yes, right.
Right, so that's from a hardware perspective and from an energy consumption perspective and a space perspective and probably 15 other perspectives, that's not a very efficient model. So it's kind of interesting how computing technology went from the concept of the IBM or the mainframe where everything was run in, all the computer processing was run in one place, and everyone out at the desktops had kind of a dumb screen kind of a thing or just a simple terminal to access that information back in the core. Then there was this proliferation of the personal computing age where everyone got a computer at their desk with all this power. Now it's kind of going back to the centralized model. So out at the desktop, we can save a lot of space, we can save a lot of energy, we can extend the life of existing computers using desktop virtualization technology.
Now, so then explain what you would actually have at the individual location. So you wouldn't have a full-blown computer anymore. What is there?
Well, it's really simple. I mean, you can have a computer now that's about that big, and it can be so light and so simple, and we call this a lightweight kind of technology. It basically can draw power off the Ethernet cable if the switches that provide the network capacity have power over Ethernet. You don't even need to plug it into a wall jack anymore. You get enough power off an Ethernet cable to run the thing. You still need your monitor plugged in because that draws more power for the light. But so it's a lot less energy consumption, it's simpler to manage, and it also has far less, it is a computer per se, but it's light. It doesn't have nearly as much processor memory a random memory, and probably not even a disk, probably just a simple flash drive, because all of that's being provided in a virtualized, back from the data center, or potentially from the cloud. Cloud providers, including Anise & Associates, can provide virtual desktop computing from a cloud source, so you don't even have to do it in your own data center. So it's a much simpler device. So you think about the average life of the computer, the desktop computer, we've talked about this a couple times, maybe 3 to 5 years.
Yes, right.
You know, so take the organization that's got 10,000 desktops and all of a sudden 6,000 of them are due for replacement. So the CIO comes to the CFO and says, oh my gosh, here we go again. I have to replace all these PCs next year. Better get your budget ready. Well, now with if they move to a virtualized desktop environment, they can extend the life of those existing PCs for maybe several more years and put in virtualization technology, because they can dumb down those desktops that are out there today. And they don't need as much capacity. So it basically extend the life of them for several more years. And when they do replace them, they replace it with something that's far less expensive, smaller, and simpler to manage. Management is one of the key aspects of it, because instead of having the technician that has to run around to all these hundreds or thousands of desktops and say, okay, let me have your computer here for an hour while I solve all your issues on your PC, that's all being done centrally managed in the core now, because the device out at the end is very simple. And if there is a problem with the device at the end, we'll just swap it out and they're out of there like that. So it's a much easier program to manage.
Well, you know what I'm picking up on this also is that if you, and again, that 3 to 5 year cycle, if you own a business, you've always got your mind on this. The whole idea that you can extend the life of those desktops by dumbing them down, as you were saying, because the power requirements and the memory requirements and all that other stuff is all being handled out of a data center.
Right.
One question though, say you're operating in the field, you have a laptop, you're operating in the field. Is there an opportunity there?
You can, from the field, you can, if you have a good internet connection or a good connection to your corporate network that has enough bandwidth and is reliable, you could run a virtual desktop instance onto your laptop. But the mobile user is still, at times, maybe many times, depending on what their job is and where they travel, where they go, is still going to most likely need to have all of their resources right there locally. So I kind of take the mobile user, not completely out of the equation, but it's very different. So virtual desktop environment is excellent for the place where these workers come in there. They're there from 8 to 5 every day. Or take a school, for example. Maybe they have, a large high school may have 4 or 5 computer labs with 30, 40, 50 in each. There's no reason for those to all be individual, fully blown computers, because they just sit there all day, and so it depends on the workflow of the user, but there's certainly still cases for mobile users to have a fully operating, fully capable local machine. But there's tremendous efficiency to be found by finding all the ones that don't need that.
Ray, thank you. Very thorough explanation as always.
Yeah.
That was great, thank you.
Yeah,
next week, we've got a great topic for next week. Anise & Associates is celebrating their 45th anniversary.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you, so you have to do some homework. I want to know what the changes are in the last 45 years. I can't even imagine.
Well, we did write a book on it. There is a book out there, and I know it, so I'm ready for that.
All right, then. I'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you very
Jesse.
much for coming in.
Yeah.
To see this interview again, head to our website, looktvonline.com.